Hello and welcome to a very cold December morning, and today you join me on the banks of my new winter syndicate which started at the beginning of December. We're now just about a week or so from Christmas and I'm on my second trip to the lake. The first trip I did was right at the beginning of the winter syndicate when I just did an overnighter just to get a feel for the place. It was quite busy at the time, a few keenies down, but now I think I've got the whole place to myself and I'm down here for 48 hours, so we'll see what happens. Now, when I first joined the lake, the conditions were a lot different to what they are now. It was quite mild. There were one or two fish that got caught, but I don't think there's been anything out now for a couple of weeks. And as you can see on the ground, you're talking about proper winter conditions as well. It's sub-zero at the moment. We had a ground frost last night. I arrived yesterday afternoon just before dark and had a quick walk around with the dog. Couldn't see any signs of fish. I've gone in this area which is known as the double. We've got a nice southwesterly wind blowing down the lake. I know that this particular swim has got a track record with fish in the winter months on here, so that's the main reason why I'm in here. One or two of the lads have been on here for a few years, have told me that the big double does have a habit of throwing up a good fish or two, and that's really sort of what I'm interested in catching from this lake. I'm not here to catch numbers of fish. I'm here to maybe have a good chance of catching one fish during the winter, which turns out to be a big one, because there are some decent fish in this lake. At the right time of the year, there's definitely 3 regular 50-pounders in here, including a fish known as the big trouty, which is an absolute stunner. You might have seen that fish on one of the Fox videos when Jim Wilson caught it earlier this year at over 50 pounds. But there's also some good fish back in the 50-pounders up. There's a lot of 40-pounders in. I don't know exactly how many, but certainly what I'm hearing is there could be 10, 15, 20 different 40-pounders at the right time of the year, which is a heck of a lot of big fish, certainly for this area of the country. And one of those fish would definitely do me during the course of the winter syndicate, which runs from the 1st of December right the way through until the end of March. I don't know how often I'm going to get down here, so I won't be down here every week. I've got other things to do with Avid, and obviously during the Christmas period I'm going to have a couple of weeks off as well then. But it is nice to be out on a lake like this where one bite could certainly make your season, and it is a nice lake as well. As you can see, the swims are really nice and comfortable, and it's a lot different to when I fished in the winter months last year when I was fishing one or two waters which were very muddy. The conditions get very difficult during the winter months because you're not catching anything. I've got a dog as well. She's in and out the bivvy with mud all over her, and when you're in those sort of conditions it can be a little bit of a drain on your enthusiasm, and here at least it's going to be nice and comfortable, and as I say, we've got a chance of a big fish as well. So let's see how the winter unfolds, but at the moment I've done that overnighter, not had anything. Apparently most of the bites are during the night, but bites on here can come at any time as well. So yeah, let's see how the winter unfolds. Just having a quick walk around then, show you a few spots around the lake. You can see the frost at the moment, and there's the old dog. She's just been vaccinated for rabies, getting ready to take her into Europe this year on a few overseas adventures. So if there's anybody out there that's got a Staffordshire Bull Terrier and has wondered about taking them into places like France, you most definitely can. It says clearly on the French government website that Staffordshire Bull Terriers are allowed into France. So as long as it's microchipped and you've got the rabies vaccines, you can take them overseas, no problem at all. So hopefully we're going to get some nice trips this year. This is a nice swim as well in the corner here, look at that. Nicely covered in trees and marginal reeds. Lots of nice spots. I'm sure this is a good winter swim in the right conditions. Certainly nice and covered in the summer months, I bet, for a bit of shade. The problem with fishing big lakes like this in the winter months is you've got to find them. You know, this is 30 acres in size, and I bet the carp are all huddled up in one area somewhere. Yeah, they'll move on winds and in certain conditions and that, but where are they at the moment? I have no idea. No idea whatsoever. A good tip is to fish lots of different swims. Try the rods at different depths, different areas. Try and search out where the fish are. Obviously you've got track record, which is always worth talking to other anglers, finding out which are the best winter swims to fish. But on here, I know a couple of the regular lads on here, and they've told me a few bits of important information which hopefully I'll put to use. But at the moment it definitely looks very bleak. I've got a proper runny nose as well at the moment, like everybody I think around the country. Well, let's carry on round anyway. I don't think you'll find a better kept lake than this place, because it's absolutely immaculate. Check out the swims. Look at that one. There's definitely some craftsmanship gone into this. That is a lovely swim. There's the steps. Dog's tied up at the moment. But look at that. Definitely no mud in the winter on this place. Might be a cold wind and pretty awful conditions, but if you set up in a swim like that, at least you're comfortable. It's even got some ivy pots at the back. That is just lovely. Definitely a bit of me at the moment in these conditions. So let's tell you a little bit about the swim and what I'm doing with the rods. Well, I've had a little bit of a plumb around, cast about, and found a few nice areas. There's a lot of hard gravelly areas out there. Under 20 wraps you can find lots of nice clear areas as well. Now during the course of the summer months, apparently there's a lot of weed in this lake, and you can see there's a little bit of blue dye in it as well. But down in front of me I've not found any weed at all. It's relatively flat, a few gravelly spots as I say. You've got a channel round to the left where you've got a bay that is quite a big bay, and apparently the fish do get in there in the early season as well, but there's a little bit of a drop off as you lead into that bay, and apparently some of those rocky areas quite sharp as well, so I'm trying to avoid there. So what I've done is I've got my rods scattered different distances. I've got the left-hander roughly about 15 wraps out on a nice spot about 7-8 foot. Middle rod a little bit further out than that, about 17 wraps, and then the right-hander, that's out at 19 wraps, all on nice gravelly hard areas, so I know that they're going down with a nice drop. Pretty confident that if a carp comes into the area, there's a good chance they'll find what I'm fishing with, and with this wind blowing down there, there's definitely a chance there could be a carp or two around here. On a tactics front, I'm just fishing with small stringers, PB wafters on one of the rods, and I've got some bug wafters on the other two rods as well. Nice and glugged, nice and smelly, fishing for one bite at a time. So it's all about easing my way in for my first few trips, find out what happens rather than just filling it in and sitting over a load of dead bait. If I'm honest, it doesn't really feel good for a bite, but it's nice to be down here trying to work out the jigsaw puzzle of a new lake. And we are getting close to Christmas now, when the winter equinox arrives, daylight hours start to change. Unless you fish those waters that are full of fish and give you an opportunity of catching something, then those waters can be a little bit different to the majority. But the majority of waters, it is those little windows of opportunity that you're waiting for. You sit there for weeks on end, and then all of a sudden 48 hours appears, 2 or 3 fish get caught, decent fish as well. I'm just hoping that that's what's going to happen on here, because with there being so many big fish in here, what I'm waiting for is one of those big ones to come along. But it's nice to be out in a way. As I say, this is my last trip before Christmas, and then getting out in the new year when hopefully the conditions might be a little bit more favourable to catch something. But either way, I've got the rods out, so there's always a chance. When I first joined Avid almost 5 years ago, I started using a captive coated hook link, and since then I've used this product extensively to catch some incredibly difficult carp, including fish to over 60 pounds in the UK. Available in 3 different colours, weedy green, sand clay and brown, it comes in 3 different strengths of 15, 25 and 35. It features a tough outer coating that's easy to strip with your fingernails, and it's probably the easiest currently on the market to do this, yet it won't split when you tie knots in it. Boasting a low diameter, this link is extremely subtle and unobtrusive, and due to a unique outer coating, it sinks quickly without the need to add any form of weight or putty. Captive coated has an inner braid which is finished in a similar colour to the outer coating, making it perfect for concealment and camouflage. In summary, it's a great all-round hook link which is capable of catching carp from any venue around the world. For more info, check it out at avidcarp.com. So welcome to my first trip of 2023. Happy New Year to everybody, and it's good to be back out after the Christmas break. I always get a little bit of withdrawal symptoms because I've not been fishing now for about 2 or 3 weeks. We had that cold snap just before Christmas, and then I hung the rods up for a couple of weeks, had a bit of time with the family, and here we are. I'm back out, I'm raring to go. Conditions are absolutely prime as well. We've got a low pressure front coming in, perfect conditions for big carp, especially at this time of the year. So I've got a couple of days on the bank and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm in a new swim today because there's quite a few anglers on the lake. There's a couple of lads set up on the bank where I wanted to be, where I fished for my first couple of trips to the lake in the big double, and a couple of lads around the corner from them as well. So it's nice and busy, the lake is. I think everybody's ready for these conditions. They know something's going to happen. It's just a case of sitting and waiting, having the rods in the right place, and hopefully that's what's going to happen on this occasion. So let's get myself set up. I'm in a new swim. It's called Moz's, this one. I'll talk to you about it in due course, but it's good to be back out in the new year. Oi oi, happy 2023, what a way to start. A few moments ago, left hand rod, couple of bleeps on it, tightened up. Just as I'm getting my boots on, it's roared off, and a mega scrap, really hard fighting fish. And we've got, it looks like a 40 pounder in the net, so yes, what a way to start. It's just, what is it now? It's 7:30, so daylight's just breaking, so in the next 10 or 15 minutes or so I'll get the photographs done. But yeah, what an absolutely brilliant way to start the year. Morning. Proper buzzing at the moment, because to get your first fish from any lake is always your first goal when you get to there, and if it turns out to be a decent one, well, it makes you smile. So 42 pound mirror on my first trip of 2023 to my winter syndicate, which is where we are in the background. This is very close to Lincoln, one of the gravel pits around that area, very famous in the local area for having lots of big fish, and indeed there's plenty of big fish in here, fish to over 50 pounds, and it's definitely been proper big fish weather as well the last few days, which is why I've been meaning to get out here, because over Christmas I tend to always spend the Christmas weeks with the family, don't really do a great deal fishing wise, let the lads who aren't fishing all the time get out on the banks, find space, and not have the likes of me sitting there all week. So I hide away during Christmas, and that's what I've been doing. But I've been desperately eager to get back out after the Christmas break, because when I've been at home for a couple of weeks with the missus and that kind of thing, she wants rid of me and I want to get out as well. And with this low pressure front that's been coming in the last few days, certainly in the north where I live, it's been proper big fish weather. And indeed when I got here as well, I think there's about 6 lads on here, which I know doesn't sound that busy for 30 acres, but initially I was like not too sure whether I was going to fish, so I decided to go to Gurdon, which is only a few minutes down the road, have a look around there, and there's a few lads on there, but nothing took me fancy, so I came back here, and the wind was hacking southwesterly down to the bank in the background. All that area was stitched up. That's where I really wanted to go, and there was a 37, I think it was caught over there as well. So, you know, perfect big fish conditions, and this week actually looks really good for further fish. But I've got to pack up in a minute and get myself home. It's prime for it this time of year. And you know, when I worked at Carp Talk, I used to see a lot of big fish getting caught during January, lots of lake big uns, and if the weather's right, then there's always a good chance. You know, you tend to get a lot of people hiding away in the winter months because it gets cold, it gets uncomfortable, but nowadays you've got all the right gear, the right equipment to use in the winter. You can stay out for days at a time and be really comfortable. It is really quite cool at the moment. It's quite icy this morning. It's due to get warmer this afternoon, and this week it's going to be nice and warm as well. So it's perfect. You know, January, there are those opportune moments that when the big ones are feeding, you've always got a chance with them. When I hooked that fish this morning as well, I kind of knew it was a decent fish from the way it was fighting it. It proper stripped me a line. It probably took me about 20 minutes to get it in, and it was taking line from the moment it picked up the hook bait. It was roaring off to the centre of the lake, and there's a lot of sharp gravel out there, so I was obviously having to be a bit careful as well. Thankfully everything held. Got big hooks on this time of year, got size 4s on, using very simple rigs as always, but size 4 hooks I always think got a much better chance for landing big fish, and that fish definitely fought hard under the tip. It gave me a right good scrap for about 5-10 minutes, very close in, just ploughing up and down the margin. So yeah, really good. Nice way to start the winter on here. I've done 3 trips now. This is my 3rd trip. First trip I did just an overnight, I didn't get anything. Second trip was just before Christmas, did a couple of nights, didn't get anything, and I've just done a couple of nights on this occasion as well. And new swim this time, which apparently is a decent swim at this time of the year, but it is a little bit long range. It's about 30 wraps out there where I'll be fishing to. Nice little clear area out there, a few areas as well with a little bit of blanket siltweed as well. And it's actually one of the rods that was on the siltweed that did me the bite, which I was a bit surprised about. If I expected to get a bite, it'd have been off the clear areas. You know, at this time of the year, chucking long range, 30 wraps, it's not easy when there's a wind blowing. And indeed, when I got here, there was a really strong crosswind from left to right, and I was struggling to reach 30 wraps, which normally I should be able to do with ease, but with the wind as it was, with only 3.5 ounce leads, that's all you can use on this lake. It was a little bit of a struggle. It was almost like I got 40 yards of line in a bow going out to where the rig ended up, and I was struggling to hit the clip, but when the wind died down, it was pretty easy to get out there. So yeah, long range fishing in the winter. Here's something for you. It's probably something that we're all guilty of as well at this time of the year, because carp are so inactive in the winter months, you tend to cast out, leave the rods out for long periods of time and not really do a great deal with them until you go home. Certainly I don't anyway. But last night, just as the wind died down, I'd had rods out on the PB wafters for, I don't know, 28 hours, something like that, since I first got here. Just nice bright visual baits, which always work in the winter months, but something in my mind was telling me just to try something a little bit different, because I've used the PB wafters now on here for all 3 trips and they're not done me a bite. So I decided to get some bug wafters out that I'd been glugging for a few weeks and just use those and just cast them out as single hook baits. So if I hadn't changed over to those baits, would I have caught that fish? I don't know, but it's definitely got me thinking, because some lakes you can always find that some baits work and other baits don't. I know some people talk about resting some baits in the winter months, and I often get a few people messaging me about the bug, is it any good in the winter? And it definitely is, as I've just proven today. You know, I did catch some fish on it last winter as well, and it is one of those baits, I think, that as long as you don't put too much out there, you've definitely got a good chance of catching with it. You know, this time of year, I don't tend to put much bait out anyway, a little bit of sweet corn, a bit of hemp. If I'm allowed, I might use a bit of maggot as well. Not allowed to use them on here though. But nice glugged single hook baits. You need a little bit of confidence to just whack those out there, certainly at 30 wraps, right out to the middle of the lake, and just sit there and hope that something's going to happen. And luckily I've got that confidence to do it, and it has worked for me. It needs a certain frame of mind to winter fish. That's one of the things that a lot of people overlook. They always think there's something in the rigs or the baits, but a lot of the time it is just mental, just sitting there and putting the effort in and being out there and not faffing around too much, letting the rods do the talking. Sometimes you've got to chop and change things, other times you've not got to do that, but most of the time you've got to definitely be patient at this time of the year, because if the rods are out there, they're generally out there for long periods of time without anything happening, and that can proper be a bit of a head spin. I think that's the right word. What a brilliant way to start January. First trip on the Winter Syndicate this year. And just landed this lovely 42-pound mirror. Proper right old fight. He's still got some fight in him now as well. There we go, look at that. What a carp to catch in January. Absolutely brilliant. Last show. It's got a right thick set of shoulders on it.